And what becomes really negative for us is we bring that over into our Christianity, into our spiritual walk, and Christians often use fear as a means of manipulating on other Christians. Or we use it as our own excuse as to why we can't do something. Because we're too fearful. We are like the one talent person who, because of fear, went and hid their talent. We become so accustomed to fear in all the other realms of our lives that we bring it into our spiritual walk and we say, you know what, God doesn't really expect me to get beyond my fear. I can go bury this. Really? What verse did you find that in? Because the one I find, that person's called unfaithful. You see, we've become so comfortable with our fear that we think we have a reason to not love. I've seen people get hurt. So why should I open myself up to fulfill the command to love other people when all that happens when you do that is you get hurt? I've seen people get abused. So why should I love? I'll live in the fear of seeing people be abused. How about this? If you don't protect yourself, who will? So I'm not going to put myself out there to practice this love, this divine love, this transforming love, because if I put myself out there, guess what? I'm afraid of hurt. I'm afraid of abuse. I'm afraid nobody's going to look after me but me. Can we get serious about that logic for just a minute? I mean, painfully serious? Did Jesus' love for others ever get him hurt? Did the one whom we claim to want to follow, did his love for other people ever lead him down the walkway where he was going to be hurt? Absolutely. What did he do about that? Well, I'm afraid I might be hurt. I'm not going to love. I'm not going to do what God sent me here to do. No, he loved anyway. Did he ever love those who abused him? I'll tell you what, if I had one moment in Bible history that I would just like to be a fly on the wall, it is when Jesus washed the feet of Judas. Wow. You talk about love. Did Jesus' lack of self-preservation tactics ever cause him difficulty? Do you see that logic of fear does not get us to the point of the transforming love of God? It doesn't get us there. So we have to silence the fear. Remember the word Jesus said that I have said to you, a slave is not greater than his master. If they persecuted me, they will also persecute you. If you've kept my word, they will keep it also. Sounds absurd, but most of us are so secure with our fear motivations that the very thought of using another form is too fearful for us to give serious consideration to. We are comfortable with being fearful. And the idea of freeing ourselves from that fear and living any other way is just too scary. Give me what I know rather than what God calls me to. Transforming love demands freedom from such fearful controls. Freeing your heart to love involves releasing of all the fearful logic that's contained in our I've been, what if. The little cartoon. Isn't that really what we're talking about? Do we love ourselves enough to fry the bacon when we're the pig? God calls us to sacrifice. Of course, you've heard the difference between the chicken supplying the eggs and the pig supplying the ham. One's commitment and the other's just a blessing or whatever. All of those different things. Transforming love calls us to stop being afraid of that. To stop being fearful. Can I guarantee you today that if you step out of that kind of fearful thinking that you'll never be hurt, abused, or mistreated? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I'll tell you what I can guarantee you, though. If you stay under the controlling attitudes of your fears, you will continue to get the tumultuous results that you're currently getting. I can guarantee you that. If we stay living within the confines of our fear, we'll continue to get all that we've got right now. I can also guarantee that when those hurts and abuses come, a loving response will bring healing, but a fearful one has the potential to fester forever. I can guarantee you that. I can guarantee you that if you set your heart today on living the transforming love of God, you will be hurt, you will be abused, you will be persecuted. Seems like Jesus said, blessed are those who are persecuted. Isn't that strange? You can still have happiness amid that kind of turmoil. Why? Because the love will bring quick healing to your heart. I can guarantee you that. Don't be afraid to give up your fear. Okay? That was the first part of transforming love. Secondly, start with you. Start with you. This is one of those sermons that if this point and you're thinking, I wish so-and-so was here, you need to just take that out of your mind right now, because this is absolutely about nobody but you. Because transforming love starts with you. I found this verse and this, I get so stuck in like Matthew's gospel and John. Those are the gospels that really I love. But I just discovered this thing in Mark as he's relaying some of the Sermon on the Mount of Jesus. And look at how he puts this. Salt is good, but if the salt becomes unsalty, with what will you make it salty again? Have salt in yourselves and be at peace with one another. Great passage. What a great statement. Have salt in yourselves. You've heard the saying what? Be worth your salt. Somebody's got to be worth their salt. Maybe this is where it came from. Have salt in yourself. The whole concept of living with the transformation power of love depends upon you having the salt in yourself. That's where it all starts. It all starts with us. We talked a few weeks ago about the difference between a dark dash and a light dash. Dark dash lovers have got to learn to step into the light if they want to get salty. Living in the comfort of our fear makes us saltless. Changing into one who lives in love is only for those who are salted with the Spirit. We've got to be salt. One falsehood that gets propagated within the self-love myth of the nature of man is we live with this, well, if something else would change, or if someone else would change, then I would just, things would just be good in my world. Let this change and I would be so happy. I would consider myself so blessed. That's stinking thinking, but how many times have we rationalized some of those thoughts? If my spouse would, if my parents would, if my boss would, if the church leaders would, if blank would, if such and such would only happen, then I could experience true life happiness. Again, what verse are we getting this from? It's human logic. It's that default nature that's loving ourselves. But it's propagated. There's a number of things wrong with that. First of all, it holds everyone else responsible for your personal happiness. And there's not a verse in the book that will substantiate that. We bear our own responsibility. That's why Jesus said, you can be blessed and be persecuted. That's why James wrote, count it a joy when you encounter various trials, because you know what those trials bring into your life. That's why it said of Jesus in Hebrews chapter 12, that he, for the joy that was set before him, endured the cross. Why? How can you do that, Christ? Because he realized he was responsible for his own personal happiness. And you want to know what made Jesus happy? It was saving mankind. So he could endure the cross. He could take the pain in the garden and turn it into a blessing because he knew what it was going to do. Man, And you talk about learning love. Another thing that's wrong with this, it makes the situation more influential than the Savior. Whatever the situation is that we think, if this was just changed, then my life would be so much better. I could serve God so much more efficiently. If this were out of the way, do you know what that does? That tells Jesus, this situation is more powerful than you are. This has a greater influence on my life than you do. Again, we won't find that substantiated. It also renders every biblical promise of personal peace null and void. Rejoice in the Lord always. Again, I say rejoice. Think on these things. Frank shared that Philippians passage Wednesday night. That, when we concentrate on these pure things, what happens to us? Salt is good. But then he says, have salt in yourself. What results when I have salt in myself? I'm in love with other people. I have peace. I'm in love with other people. Does it mean other people always treat me the way I want them to treat me? No. But I'm at peace. Why? Because of what they've done? No. Because of who I am. I'm salt. When I decide that I'm going to transform my life to be the salt that God wants me to be, I will be at peace. Regardless of what happens, regardless of who does what, I will have peace. You want to be a better spouse, a better parent, you want to have a better spouse, a better parent, better boss, better church leader, then it all begins with you being better. That's where it all starts. W.L. Bateman is the one attributed to this. If you keep on doing what you've always done, you'll keep on getting what you've always got. We need to step out of our fear, we need to silence our fear, and we need to start with ourselves when it comes to developing the command, the transforming love that will lead us to others. Do not be wise in your own estimation. Never pay back evil for evil to anyone. Respect what is right in the sight of all men. If possible, as far as it depends on you, be at peace with all men. As far as it depends on you, you be at peace with all men. But now, you also put them all aside, anger, wrath, malicious slander, and abusive speech from your mouth. Do not lie to one another, since you laid aside the old self and its evil practices, and you put on the new self, which is being renewed in a true knowledge according to the image of the one who has created him. Do you see what Paul's talking about? He's got this great big list, and boy, I can tell you, I know the people that need to stop slandering, and I know the people who have abusive speech, and I know the ones who are practicing evil, and I know the ones, that's not what he's talking about. The command is for you. The command is for me. I'm the one who's to put those things aside. It all starts right here. Right here. Transforming love. The peace of transforming love has little or nothing to do with others and other situations. It all has to do about my own saltiness. Things will get better when I get better. And that's the truth, folks. Things will get better when I get better. In your life, things will get better when you get better. And that is biblical truth. Late 1980s, Michael Jackson, he had his epiphany in the early 80s about we are the world and we need to stop starvation. And they did their little group thing and raised lots of money. And then towards the end of the 80s, he wrote this song entitled The Man in the Mirror. And some of my kids were at that point where this was one of the cool songs of the time. So I listened to this often. I don't know, somebody had it recorded. But look at some of the words. I've been a victim of a selfish kind of love. I wonder what kind of love he's talking about. Let's just call it self-love. It's time that I realize there are some with no home, not a nickel to loan. Could it be really me pretending that they're not alone? What's he talking about? My situation compared to others. And then here's the chorus of the song. I'm starting with the man in the mirror. I'm asking him to change his ways. And no message could have been any clearer if you want to make the world a better place. Take a look at yourself and then make a change. Yes.